Hi, and welcome to Par Breakers Golf Academy. I'm Bernard Sheridan, and we're Par Breakers Golf Academy live. So we're running a little bit late today. It's pretty cool still in the Northeast, and because of that, we had some people in the facility, so we had to wait for them to finish up before we got started. But we're glad that you're here, and we're really looking forward to hearing your questions this evening. So what we're going to do, and there's a couple of things that I just want to touch base on before I start tonight, is the one thing that I really want to mention to everybody or ask everybody is we would really like to find an ideal time that you would like to see this show on, because that's when we would like to run it so we can get more live participants. The show's going to be a lot more interesting for you, the viewer, if there's more people participating and asking questions. So what we would like you to do is write us at parbreakers@gmail.com. That's parbreakers, Parbreakers, @gmail.com, and give us suggestions of times that you'd like to see the show on. And depending upon how many people we get to make that decision, then we'll decide, when are we going to have the show. Right now it seems like I thought 6 o'clock at Sunday evenings would be a good time. But apparently, I'm guessing that it's not as good of a time. A lot of people can't get to watch it then, because we're getting a lot of views later on after the show is taped, but not as many live. And we'd like to see more of you watching live so you can get the benefit of the reaction of interacting with me live. So that's the whole reason why we do the show. So today what we're going to do is we're going to work on short game techniques and chipping and pitching. And so basically what we're looking here, I'm on our short game area, and if we look here, this pin over here, I'm going to walk over to this pin, and excuse my back while I'm doing that, but I'll back up. And if we take a look here, this pin here is the middle pin on our green here, and this is about 10 yards from where the ball is right now. A lot of times you're going to be at this distance from the pin. I don't know whether you can hear the cars in the background roaring or not, but we got a car show next door. We're next door to an expo center here in Oaks, and they have a hot rod show, and it sounds like they're revving up engines in there. But basically what we're looking at here, if I walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just about 10 paces, okay, and that's 10 yards. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to try to put a couple of balls in that ring there, okay, and when we set up, what I want you to think of, and I'm going to look at you guys first, and I'm going to, so that you can see me head on, and I'm going to show you how to set up, and then I'll set up so you can see me down the line like we were looking before. But when you set up, what I want you to do is, first thing I want you to do is choke up on the club, okay? So you can choke up about 2/3 of the way down the shaft on the grip, or you can get all the way down where your index finger is just touching the shaft under the grip, okay? And you're going to set the ball right in the center of your stance, and still going to be having your chest facing forward as if you would in a normal shot, okay? And the butt of the club's going to point just to your first belt loop. Now, I don't know whether we've gotten a lot into that before in some of these shows on Ustream, but it's really important so that we can see that when the shaft becomes vertical, it happens after the ball, okay? So what does that mean, vertical? Well, it's when the shaft reaches the bottom of its swing arc. So when it reaches the bottom of its swing arc, okay, then basically that's going to happen in front of the ball, all right? We have a question? That's fine. We're not worried about that. We're just worried if the audio is even working. So as long as so talking to my producer there, and we just want to make sure that audio is working. And remember the last show, we kind of lost audio. So we just want to make sure it's working the whole time. All right. So pretty much we're going to set up, ball's going to be in the middle of our stance, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to preset our stance to be open. Okay? Now, when we set up, and that club is pointing a little bit forward, not a lot forward, just a little bit forward, now we're going to open up our stance. So this would be square to the target, and this is slightly open. okay? So we're going to open up a little bit. So now as we start backing through, our hips can clear so we have somewhere for our arms to go. Whenever we're using a wedge, we always want to open our stance, even with a full shot. And the reason why is it gives you the opportunity to get out of your own way, okay? So it's tough to get out of your own way if you're square, because the club is so short, it forces you to want to come outside the line. A lot of players do that, okay? So if we look at this from here down the line, I'm going to square up, and then I'm going to open my stance, okay? So when you can see that my stance now is going left of the target, all right? But the club is going to aim at the target, and I'm going to take a practice swing. Now, when I take a practice swing, okay, I want you to notice, I'm going to pull my sleeve up here so you can take a look at this right hand. And as I go back, this right hand is not going to break, okay? This right hand is going to stay pretty much just a slight cup, okay? Just a slight cup. It's not going to do this, all right? That's going to shut the face. So I'm going to kind of point the shaft down the line, and then as I come through, I'm going to try to brush the turf, and I'm going to try to turn towards the target a little bit, okay? It's just like a miniature full shot. If I don't turn, I'm not going to be able to control where the club face goes because my hands are going to go past me, okay? And I want my hands to remain in front of me. So if I take a little chip shot here, that 10-yard chip shot, ball's going to come out, okay? And then it's going to release. Now, everything is going to the left, as you can see, so I have to compensate for that. Probably another good thing to do, which we didn't do already, is make sure that we're aiming directly at the target and checking and lining it up as if it was like a putt, okay? Which means that I would come behind it, and I don't want to stand right in front of the camera, but I would come behind the ball and look down the target line and then pick a spot. So pretty much like here's the spot right here. I see a little piece of gravel there. I'm going to square up to that, set the ball in the center of my stance, take my posture, open my stance a little bit, feel what I have to do, and then go. That's a little better, okay? So good distance control. Remember that you really have to feel like you're turning through. So we have a question?
Yeah. Should you pick a spot that is a certain distance out depending on which club? Like if you're hitting a sandwich?
Okay, so
hit it 50% and then let it run out?
okay, so the question is landing spot. Okay, so in a short game, should I pick a landing spot on the green? Where do I want the ball to land? Okay, so what I was just showing before that was pretty much understanding how the setup works and where my hands have to be as I swing. Because remember that when I swing, as I hit the ball, my hands have to be ahead, okay? And then I'm going to bottom out. That's where I'm going to reach the bottom after. So if I'm going to pick a landing spot, well, I'm using a 52-degree wedge right now, okay? So the 52 is probably going to carry the ball a little bit further than a pitching wedge or a sand wedge. Well, not further than a pitching wedge, but further than a sand wedge or a lob wedge would, okay? If I set this up like a lob wedge, and I can do that, okay? Now I'm going to have to fly the ball further, okay, in order for it to, because it's not going to release as much. So if I'm using a lob wedge from 10 yards, I'm probably going to want to try to fly it 2/3 of the way, okay? And 2/3 of the way would be all the way over here. It would be landing right about here, okay? With my 52-degree, I'm probably going to land it around here, not quite as far, about maybe a yard or two closer, okay? And it's also going to come out lower. That's a lot better, okay? And that's how I'm going to get it to check. I'm going to get it to check by keeping my hands in front of the ball, okay, and hitting the turf in front of the ball. If I try to release the club, and what does release mean, really? Well, release means that my right wrist is going to unhinge. So if I release the club at the ball, okay, which is what I see a lot of amateurs doing, they'll release the club at the ball, okay, and sometimes the ball will pop up, but then they'll stop. So it's hard to control any distance that way. A lot of times they'll release it too early, and they'll it'll go too far, okay? Because now they have all that shock. So the key to turning through it is to keep that momentum of the club moving, so all the energy that's in the club isn't transferring into the ball, okay? So we want that energy to be dispersed through the ball, all right? So when we're looking at little shots like that, and let's just kind of go over this again. When we're looking at little shots like that, we have one more question? Okay, so that's great. I love to hear your questions. So we're going to go to our next question, and then we'll get back to that. So what's our next question?
I've been told that you shouldn't break your wrist. You said you cock your wrist.
Okay, so, all right, so someone said that you shouldn't break your wrist when you chip. So there's an understanding, and we talked about this in the beginning of the show tonight, is that when you come back, that wrist does not want to break. That's correct. And as you go through, if we're looking at it this way, when we come through, this wrist, your forward wrist, and I'm a right-handed player, so that's my left wrist, that does not want to break. Whenever it breaks, that's what happens, okay? And what does that mean is that I'm going to skull it, or I'm going to hit it off the leading edge of the club. I'm going to blade it, okay? So I do not want my wrist to break. That's the purpose of, and here's why, and some tour pros, you'll see a lot of tour pros, and when they're making this shot, what they'll do is they will not turn their body through, okay? They'll do a shot like this, and they'll let their hands go past them, okay? And their wrist won't break. Now, they have a lot more control and touch and feel than the average player does, okay? So we're more like, the audience that we're talking to right now is more like the average player, okay? So if we can keep our body rotating and keeping the club in front of us, okay, that'll stop the club from going past us and us breaking our wristing. So this way, if I can turn through, it's going to come out a lot softer and it's going to land a lot easier, okay? So we're going to look at another shot now. I'm going to try, and I'm going to ask my producer, can we see this pin to our left here?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, and if I stand here, can you see me, or are you just seeing my back?
I can see you off on the side.
Okay. So should I turn the camera this way a little bit?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move